Everyone.
Hey, Peter Parker. You got something for me?
I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get this.
Okay, send out the countdown clock. And here we go.
10, 9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we're live, guys.
Welcome to Secrets of Surviving Alienation. Today, one of the leading, and it's true when we say this, one of the leading living legends in the space of alienation and high conflict divorce joins us today. There are few people who have more actionable, really heartfelt, effective techniques and strategies for surviving. She joins us now, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Welcome from drsueandyou.com.
Thank you for having me on today, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
You are the host of several broadcasts, podcasts, and radio programs. You've been doing this for over 5 years. And I want you to take us back to when you started 5 years ago, how limited our understanding was of this conflicted, high conflict space.
Well, many, many years ago, nobody knew really what this was in terms of how to change it. People knew what the theory was behind it, but nobody was really working one-on-one with parents who have gone through this tremendous heartache, loss, pain, suffering, and had actionable steps that they could actually take to change this. And that's when something popped up in my head and said, you must do something to help these parents in pain and help these children who are going through this and do not have their parents in their lives, because the children are the victims of all of this.
When people ask you what you do, how do you describe to people what it is you do?
Well, I do many different things, but what I do best is give you tools, techniques, words, language, an understanding of your own pain. And I work as hard as I can to reconnect you with your children who you are not with, because there is no greater pain in life than losing a child that you know is still out there and you cannot get to. So what we do here at Dr. Sue and You, which I have designed, is giving you these tools to reconnect you with your children. And we are extremely successful at doing that.
When you talk about the process by which a family becomes fractured and parents and children are separated, it's common to think it's divorce, but there are many other circumstances. Let's talk about the dynamics of the pathology of the situations that lead to a parent and child being separated. What are the most common ways, and what are the most common ways today that you're seeing people presenting in this situation in your practice?
I love that you asked that question, and it's so prevalent for what is going on today with alienation when we use that term. Because it is not only what we hear in terms of parents getting divorced and one parent using that child as a weapon to hurt the other parent. That is only one dynamic of this. I work with all kinds of alienation cases in the world. I have kids that are alienating themselves from their own parents because their parents are overbearing or smothering, or they claim that that's what their parents are and they won't let them breathe. That's one other area. There's grandparents that are alienated from their grandchildren because the children aren't talking to the parents. And again, there's divorce. Okay? There's people that have personality issues that are causing this to happen within their own families. It's not just one kind of alienation. And to lump everything into one category just isn't fair anymore to do that.
When the term,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have a slight time delay. When the term alienation is used, is that the same thing as the technical term parental alienation?
Can you say that one more time?
There's a technical definition of parental alienation.
Yes.
However, when we use the term alienation as the cover-all to describe this entire bundle that you were just describing as coming from many different roots and sources, are they the same thing or are they different? Is parental alienation the same thing as alienation?
That's a question I've never been asked before, but I'm glad that you have asked it because we don't know. But what I'm saying is it is different. I believe the term alienation as it is used today is not always used in the way that it was defined. It was defined early on as what I said before, in divorced families where one parent is using the child as a weapon to hurt the other parent. And that other parent is called the targeted parent. And when you go and you ask the kid, why are you upset at the other parent? The child doesn't have an answer to that because it's coming from what the other parent is feeding them. However, that is not the case in every situation where people claim alienation occurs. In other cases, yes, one parent may be saying negative things to the child about that parent, but the other parent also plays a role in also alienating their children as well from their own behaviors, which often are caused by the other parent coming after them. They panic that they won't be able to see their children. And so they don't always take the best steps in those circumstances to keep their children closer to them. But I have seen in the last years that the term alienation, I believe, needs to be redefined to meet all these different circumstances. Sometimes children, older children in their 20s will choose to alienate themselves from the parent. They will. Where is that in the text? I don't see it, but it's happening, and I think it should be in there.
You're describing what sounds like a spectrum.
Yes. Yes. What an excellent word. There is a spectrum.
And you are a clinical psychologist. What are the other instances of human experiences that your industry uses the term spectrum to identify?
First of all, let me correct you. I'm not a clinical psychologist. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, but I practice as a coach because
sorry for that.
That is what is needed in alienation situations. See, I caught myself there. However, what I can tell you is by, learning to diagnose through what I learned is that in psychology, autism is on a spectrum. There are many different variations of it and degrees of it. And that is where I think we are going with alienation now. And you've heard it here first.
Let's take that one step further and ask you to, in the conversation of awareness building with us and people in the audience.
Yes.
Who may be coming to this painfully through experience without any pre-knowledge that such a universe existed. What do you call the severe increase or spike in the incidence of these kinds of things? Is alienation on this spectrum an epidemic? And can you explain why it's happening so much more now than ever? Or did it always happen and we just didn't identify it?
I think it's been happening for a very long time, and I think it just hasn't been identified correctly in terms of the spectrum. But recently, because of the rise in COVID and this pandemic, people's anxiety is on the rise even more than it was before. So that could be one factor that comes into this. However, for me, what this has really boiled down to is that parents are getting so caught up in the battle that is going on with the other party involved that subconsciously they are not attuning into where their kids are, what their kids are doing, and how they are feeling. And because of that, and it's not intentional, it's because targeted parent is in their own pain, it pushes their child away. And so it is essentially important that you are educated on what your children are feeling and what they need from you while this is going on. And what they need more than anything is to be seen, heard, and validated.
This could be the most important information we share on this program. It's essential that people understand that we are all seeking the strategies, tactics, and actionable steps to serve and protect our children. Can you please help us understand what are the things we can do in order to do that? How, if we have no contact, can you make your child understand those things, feel those things, experience those things? How do you, as the targeted parent, do something about these when you don't have contact with your child?
Thank you for asking that, because that is really poignant in what we're talking about now. I don't believe we can't get to our children if we are targeted parents. I don't believe that for 1 second. I've made my career out of getting parents to their children. I'm going to go through a couple actionable steps that you can do. First of all, one of the things that is essential is that we don't stay trapped in the past. Because when we stay trapped in the past and we're focusing on the pain that the ex has caused us, we are not able to move forward. We have to focus on, you as a targeted parent has to focus on what you can do now. And what you can do now to get to your child is not leave one avenue unturned. If you can find an email, if you can find an address, if you can get to them on Instagram, I don't care what it is. You make an attempt to do it through emailing them or texting them. but you're going to be surprised about what I'm going to say here. But it's extremely important. When you are trying to get to your child, you must remember that their perspective is not your perspective. Their story is not your story. And if you want to become from all of this, you have to surrender to that.
Can you break that down for me?
Yep.
So that I can see, not only hear your words, I want my heart to feel those words and understand what that means. It may be the second most important thing you say today.
Yes. So breaking that down is this child is feeling as though you're not showing up for him or her in the way that they need. How do I know this? Because I've read hundreds of children's letters to their parents, the targeted parent, in situations where they have said, I can't imagine that you would show up any differently for me. All you want to do is convince me that you're right and I'm wrong, or that my other parent is wrong. They don't want to hear any of that. What they want to hear is, what part did you play in this, and how are you going to show up differently for me? So, for example, an actionable step would be saying to your child in these kinds of words, I apologize that you have been in the middle of all of this, that I haven't seen your pain, that I haven't validated your feelings, that I have been too wrapped up in worrying about myself and my own needs, and I wasn't seeing you, and you're all that matters in all of this. There should never be, never, an email or a text message that goes to your child, I don't care what age they are, saying, you need to change for me. Never. And I see it all the time.
We have a comment from somebody online. They were asking, is there any instances of parental alienation against another parent that would be, like, say, a professional that's in, like, your industry, and then they go through a parental alienation thing with another partner and they use their expertise against them?
Meaning that a professional would use their expertise against a targeted parent?
Yes.
If that's happening, that should not be happening. Professionals should be clear enough on what the dynamic is that is happening within these situations. And let me say this, if a professional has not worked or met with the other side, then they should not be giving an opinion on that. What they should be doing is supporting you in what you're going through and trying to help you get closer and reconnected with your child and help you to do the work on yourself to do that. That's
Okay.
my answer to that question.
I had a question. What is PAS in children, and what's the lasting effects?
Parent alienation syndrome in children?
Yes.
Okay. So parent alienation syndrome is what I was talking about at the beginning. When they're used as strictly a weapon to hurt the other parent. The long-term effects of that are really can be quite upsetting. One specific long-term effect is that they will have extreme difficulty in committing to relationships as they go through life. They won't understand how to handle conflicts and how to resolve them. They can end up in abusive relationships. They have severe low self-esteem. They can, turn to drugs or alcohol to soothe their own emotions. They just don't have the ability to be in healthy, intimate relationships. They will often suffer a lot of cutoffs in their lives, meaning cutting out good people in their life that really do care about them because they don't have an understanding of what real love is.
Dr. Sue Kornbluth is one of the country's leading experts on the topic of working with families to succeed in moving through high conflict divorce. And one of the most important things we can emphasize today, and one of the most actionable things that I've heard you say, involves having the hope that there can be a successful resolution and future-based positive outcome in getting the entirety of the family through a high conflict divorce. Sue, before we say thank you and goodbye to you, because you've been incredibly generous with your time today, we're going to give you the last words about the most important thing any targeted parent and any child that might be hearing this can do right now to know that there is a possible positive outcome. How do you come to us today to say that?
First of all, I want everyone that's listening to know you can become more than what is happening to you right now. You can. By doing the self-work on yourself first. You're in pain. You are in pain because you are not with your children. And I understand that. But in order to reconnect with your children, you have to reconnect with yourself first. And by doing that, it will lead you out of this to reconnect with your children. I have seen it. I have done it. 80% of our cases are successful. 20% are not because people do not follow what we ask them to do. The power of changing this lies within yourself. You can be different in this situation, and you can learn the tools and the techniques to become more than you are right now and have a positive outcome in the end. It starts and begins with you.
There is hope.
There is always hope. Hope is what guides you every single day to get up and to believe that today will be different in reconnecting with your children. No one, I've always said this, no one can ever take away your hope but you. That is something that you are in control with. And last but not least, you can rewrite your own story.
Thank you for coming on and talking with everybody. And for all the families out there, I hope the best and keep your heads up, guys.
Dr. Sue, which website shall we send them to contact you?
www.drsueandyou.com.
And the name and numbers of your radio station for your program.
Yes, I am on 860 AM here in Philadelphia every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Sue.
Thank you so much.
My greatest moments didn't come from my greatest moments. My greatest moments came from my greatest defeat.